Why are Gen Z aging like milk? I've seen a number of videos circulating around the internet speculating that Gen Z appear to be aging rapidly, especially in comparison to all of the previous generations. And in each one of these videos, it's almost presented as if this is some strange anomaly. It's almost a huge mystery as to why this may be happening. But this video is going to be a little bit different because I actually believe that there's a plethora of reasons behind this. And I'm not just going to be talking about the problem, I'm going to be talking about the solution to all of these things. I also want to speak to all the people out there who are Gen Z. Don't feed into the hype of these viral sensationalist videos. A lot of these videos are designed to create a divide between the generations. There's also a lot of fear-mongering involved. Aging is a concept that is drilled into us from an early age, and everyone seems to believe that the rate at which you age is completely uncontrollable, and that some people are lucky and then others aren't, and that's it. But I'm here to say that you actually have more control than you think. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Yolanda Melody. The first thing that people need to be aware of is that out of all of the generations, particularly Gen Z, have been plagued with relentless propaganda, particularly divisive propaganda. This generation are so overly hyper aware of the multitude of issues going on in the world, and the pop culture is fucked. Most of Gen Z are incredibly lonely because they're fed this narrative constantly of don't trust anyone, don't have any feelings. Not to mention the lockdowns in 2020, which was difficult for everyone, but I cannot imagine being a child during that time and the psychological effect that that will have. I think Gen Z's era is one of the bleakest eras to live in. So the number one cause, which is so obvious, is stress. Stress is one of the number one causes of all health problems, and even doctors will admit that, which says a lot. And while we're on the subject of doctors, another strange thing about Gen Z is that they have the highest diagnosis for various mental illnesses, disabilities, learning difficulties. There has been an enormous rise in diagnosis, and I want you to hang on to that word. Did you know that you could go to a doctor and get a diagnosis, but if you were to explain your symptoms to various other doctors, each one of them would come up with their own diagnosis? If no one is doing any tests or scans and they're just going purely by what you're telling them, then the diagnosis that they give you is an opinion. And that opinion is being taken for absolute gospel, which then is enough for them to prescribe you a certain medication. Do you catch my drift? The mind is very, very powerful. And if you tell yourself that you have a certain illness, whether it be mental, physical, a lot of the time you can actually create that problem and exacerbate the issue purely by the power of thought. Gen Z have an absolute fascination with finding their identity through labels. And this is not necessarily their fault that they have been influenced to be like this. I think everyone has to have a little bit of compassion and understand that Gen Z are young. They don't have the wisdom and experience that a lot of older people do. They've just been born into this fucked up world, and they're being pulled from pillar to post by what the doctors are telling them, what the teachers are telling them, what the media's telling them, what their favourite artist is telling them. When I say that the programming and the propaganda is going at full speed ahead, it really is. I can completely understand why Gen Z are stressed. Now I'm just going to briefly touch upon the topic of medication and why that is in the list of why Gen Z are aging, apparently. Western medicine has been created for profit, first and foremost, and for the majority, if not all of these medications, the goal is to lessen the symptoms and to never address the root cause. Now the problem is that if you are experiencing any type of illness, the symptoms that you're experiencing are actually the body trying to detoxify. Or it's a way of your body trying to communicate to you that something is wrong and needs to be addressed by the root. A lot of kids are being diagnosed with ADHD, and instead of someone paying attention to them and trying to find out the root cause, they tend to be prescribed something like Ritalin or Adderall, which is a substance designed to force your brain to work in the way that the teachers want it to work. And what does medication have to do with this topic? Medication ages people, because it's a form of toxicity that is entering the body, and the body is having to work over time to detox from it, because it's not natural. Another thing that will be aging Gen Z rapidly is makeup. Now, before you jump down my throat, I love makeup. For so many girls, makeup is a form of artistic expression, and I totally get that. I feel exactly the same way about it. However, what's strange is that if you go back, say, even 20 years ago, the steps in people's makeup routine was so much smaller than what it is now. About 20 or 30 years ago, even foundation was not really an essential part of makeup. People would literally wear one eyeshadow colour, some mascara, lip gloss, black eyeliner, and they'd call it a day. That was the standard for makeup. Now, what has happened is somehow the makeup for every woman now is equivalent to that of a drag queen. Most of the makeup techniques that we now use as a standard for a woman has all been taken from a drag queen's routine. Contouring, baking, highlighter, gluing down the brows. This has all come from drag queens. This was never originally intended to be a woman's makeup routine. Now I know you're probably watching and thinking, wow, you're such a hypocrite. Clearly I do all of those things, right? Yes, I now do. However, as I've specified so many times before in my videos, I will only do this type of makeup for extremely special occasions. However, Gen Z, their standard, majoritively, is to wear this full beat every single day. Now, I am under no illusion. I know that this is not good for the skin. We all should know this, that makeup clogs pores, and it's the risk that you take when you put makeup on. For me, it's worth it once in a while. But if you're blocking your pores every single day, and you're also not getting any sunlight actually hitting your face, which, by the way, I will get onto that in a second. But if you're doing that, it will be wreaking havoc with your skin. Now the solution, before people go crazy at me, is thankfully people are kind of steering away from that massive glam look, and you have different types of makeup. Like you can do a boy beat, which I think is actually gorgeous, you know, a more natural kind of earthy looking makeup. Most of the time if I'm going out in the daytime, which by the way, this type of makeup looks best in natural light anyway. I would never actually do a full beat if I was going out in natural daylight, because believe me, it doesn't even look good in natural daylight. It can so easily look cakey. While I'm on the subject of makeup, I also have to discuss skincare. When I was in my teens, I always had this weird icky feeling that anti-wrinkle cream caused wrinkles. I don't know why I had this feeling, maybe it was just an intuition, but the messed up thing that's happening is that you have people who are like 11 years old and they have a 5-step skincare routine that's been recommended to them by some influencer that's being paid to promote these products. And especially when there's videos going around saying Gen Z are aging rapidly, it's going to scare them even more into thinking that they need to scramble and get all of this skincare to fix the problem, to stop the aging process. But in actual reality, the majority of these products do not actually feed your skin or help your skin. And I can tell you from personal experience, my skin looks its absolute best when I leave it alone. Thankfully, because I only film once in a blue moon, and I don't really have a social life, I get to have a long period of time where I don't have to wear makeup. Therefore, I don't even have to wash my face sometimes. And if I do, I just use water majoritively. I don't put a moisturiser on. But I went through a phase recently where I thought maybe I should. But I wanted something completely natural, so I started applying rosehip oil to my face every single day. It had become my regime. And the more that I did this, the more I was looking at my skin and I was thinking, why does it look so bad? I actually felt like my skin texture was getting worse and worse the more that I was putting this stuff on my skin. And also I was experiencing skin dryness, which is strange because I've always been acne prone. That's always been my thing. Never wanted it to be my thing, but it was. I've always had oily skin. So why all of a sudden is my skin going dry? It is because I was applying oil to my face and my skin was starting to get so used to it, it thought, oh, we don't need to produce our natural oils anymore because we've got this fake stuff being put all over it. The skin. So I stopped using it altogether, and honestly, the more that I leave my skin alone, the better it looks. And also, just so that you guys know, when I was 14, I looked rough. I looked so unhealthy. My skin was disgusting. And I was a goth, so I never got any sunlight. Let's talk about sunlight. Similar to the push for extensive skincare routines, there has also been this enormous push for sunscreen. I see it absolutely everywhere. People promoting SPF. People saying that even if you only walk from the house to your car, you need to have SPF 50 because the sun is so evil and it's gonna kill you. I have to be so careful about what I say on here because there's certain things that are not allowed, which should ring alarm bells really. So I'm just going to say this now. I am not telling anyone what to do. But what I am going to do is I'm going to tell you the facts of my experience. I'm not telling you to take what I say as gospel, but what I am asking you to do is just think about it yourself from a logical standpoint. The sun is the ultimate life giver. If the sun burnt out tomorrow, let me tell you what would happen. We would all die. The plants, the animals, us, everything would die in the space of a matter of days. Every other creature lives outside in the sun for hours and hours and hours. Sometimes plants live constantly in the sun. And I'm just going to tell you from my personal experience, I clearly am tanorexic. I spend hours and hours and hours in the sun. Now, I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just saying that this is what I do. And I do not touch SPF. I don't want that stuff anywhere near my body. It annoys me that my foundation contains SPF, and if I had the choice to take that out, I would. The sun is completely natural. But we are told that it's harmful and that we need to put a chemical onto our body that contains parabens and various other substances that are toxic, that have actually been proven to cause the C word, and we're told to slather that on our skin in order to be healthy. Make it make sense. This is a rare piece of information that not a lot of people can vouch for because most people have been terrified by the insane push to wear sunscreen. Majority of people just wear it all the time, so they don't actually know what the real effects of sunbathing is. But I can tell you, this is what has happened for me. And in addition to this, I have quite a few family members that don't use sunscreen, that stay out in the sun for hours and hours and hours, and all of them look very young for their age. But, you know, we must be an anomaly. After all, I am no expert, therefore I can't say anything about the matter. Moving on. Vaping. Vaping has become so popular with Gen Z as a less harmful way of smoking. But the funny thing is that there are actually no long-term studies of the effects of vaping. I personally find that being around vape smoke feels a hell of a lot more intoxicating than just being around normal tobacco. You can tell straight off the bat that vapes contain some form, if not multiple fragrances. And if you want to know more about the whole subject of why fragrance is so toxic, feel free to check out my video about that topic. The next point that I want to make that is so hugely important, way more important than people realise, is processed food. When I was in my teens, I had no understanding at all of what is healthy food. I didn't even understand what calories were. And because most people presume that, oh well, young people have a really fast metabolism, they're growing, they can just eat whatever. That may be the case when it comes to weight loss, but regardless of how fast your body is metabolizing this stuff, if you're eating processed food, your body is having to work extra hard to filter out all of the toxins. And another factor is that most of these processed foods barely have any nutrients in them anyway. I know that you guys in the US have seen a plethora of commercials and a big push for kids to be eating cereal for dinner. This is the media's way of trying to say, hey, we know that inflation's got that bad that you can't even afford natural normal food, but cereal is mega cheap, so why don't you just have that for dinner? In my opinion, cereal just masquerades itself as a healthy food, but it is just the same as any other processed food. Then also there's the massive push for veganism, particularly aimed at Gen Z. Now I myself am pescatarian, so I get it. Gen Z are being guilt-tripped into adopting veganism before they even learn anything about nutrition, and to me that's a recipe for disaster. There are so many ways that you can become deficient in nutrients through veganism. I do believe that you can have a successful vegan diet and be completely healthy. I do believe that. I know a lot of people don't, and that's totally fine. Just because we have a different opinion doesn't mean to say that we can't be friends. But I've seen so many people go down the vegan route and they're eating nothing but processed food, and that will make you ill. The next thing is that Gen Z, I believe, have become very accustomed to poor quality sleep. Some of Gen Z struggle to sleep altogether. And there's one very obvious reason for this, and that is the blue light that comes off these smartphones. A lot of them are not educated on the fact that the blue light from these devices affects their melatonin production. And that's why today's video is sponsored by blue light glasses. No, I'm joking. I don't think that blue light glasses actually work. I think that really you should just not go on your phone from like 9 p.m. onwards. Like try and create little goals for yourself where you cut off the screen time at least 2 hours before bed, and just tell me how much better your sleep is, because I have experimented with this. I've tried numerous variations of putting a limitation on when I go on my phone, and I now have a rule that I do not go on my phone within the first hour of waking up, and I also don't go on it for the last 2 hours before bed. And instead what I like to do is watch a film. See, even if a film is on your iPad, at least it's been colour graded to the point where it's majoritively quite dark. Often the lighting within films is quite yellow toned, as opposed to being this stark white, which tricks the brain into thinking that it's daylight. So if you are Gen Z, or any generation, and you want to know how to stay looking younger for longer, or how to even reverse the aging process, I personally believe that it is possible. And the key is to become more health conscious in every aspect of your life. The more healthy choices that you choose to make, the better you will look. There might be a few points in this video where you got triggered or you thought, well, I'm not stopping that. And that's fine. Just because you've popped one tire doesn't mean to say that you have to slash all the rest. I hope that this video was actually helpful as opposed to just your standard rage baiting. If you enjoyed this video, do let me know, and also comment down below any of your thoughts relating to this topic. Thank you so much to everyone who likes, comments, shares and subscribes, and a special thank you to every single person who donates to this channel. It really does help a great deal. Love you, bye! You know I'll be